This is a Hot Pie Media original.
You know, it's rare that I would start a show or at least have the first segment of a show be some sort of football-related rant. Maybe at times, if it's a spin-off issue that gets bigger than the game itself, or it's got some significance elsewhere, I'll do it because I don't really have any sort of template of rules to follow. Just try to talk about, be a bar stool for people to talk about stuff that's interesting, that's compelling. But I'm assuming a lot of people are waiting for this, so I'll give it. I'm going to pull the curtain back. Maybe not the way people like, because you like it reactionary, you like it black and white, you like one simple fix. I don't really operate that way, but I will pull the curtain back on what I think are the systemic, yes, I said it, systemic issues with your local professional football team. And I think it's important that people hear that term. I think it explains a lot. I could explain generally why they were embarrassed at home by the worst team in the Big 12 to lose their fifth straight game. I'll give you a big picture of the big problem or problems and do with it whatever you want. I don't think it's going to be the way people want, but I think I have some expertise in this area, so I'll give it to you. Now, I'm not a screamer of fire the coach. I don't normally do that. I know it's the fun thing to do. Everything that fans, look, fans can always think they can decide a game by just yank the quarterback or fire the coach. I'm not that guy. I rarely am that guy. I usually tell people it's kind of a mistake. So I'm rarely a fire the coach kind of guy. But what's funny about this is I'm going to tell you fire the coach applies here. Not because of the coach, but because of this bigger issue. The message, a hard line message, needs to be sent by the management, which is a whole problem by itself and the problem by itself, by the management of your professional college football team. So the hardline message has to be from management that doesn't send hardline messages. It just sends big payouts. The hardline message has to be, whether it's fair or unfair, whether it fixes things in the short term or not, the message, management has to reinvent itself. It won't, but that's what needs to happen. People want a fast fix. Fire the coach is not the fast fix. Management has to reinvent itself. And you do it in this case, you fire the coach, even though I'm admitting it's not going to solve any of your immediate problems. Because the message needs to be that losing to Kansas is a line that cannot be crossed. It can't be crossed by anyone, anytime, anywhere. It just can't. Someday, somehow, your professional college football management has got to become a hardline management team. Unfortunately, it might be a good place to start. I say unfortunately because I don't know necessarily that the coach by definition deserves to be fired, but I'd probably do it. Because I'd say, you can't do that. That's unacceptable. Sorry. It's a line that cannot be crossed. But that doesn't solve your problems. That's not all that I'm advocating here. But I'll say it. I think it would not hurt the cause because they have no cause. They have no management cause. They have no management culture. It wouldn't be a bad idea right now to say, here's the hard line. It's time to draw it. But I'll set this all up for you as a cultural problem that is seeped onto the field. And then I can explain how it needs to be fixed. Texas, the professional college football team known as Texas Football Inc., and I call them that for particular reasons, the management has a deep pockets problem. It's management by deep pockets, and therein lies the problem. And it has a problem of next man up. Okay, that is the lack of next man up. Now, that said, let's do the comedic part of Saturday, which I'm not saying it was very much fun. I went to school at Texas. I played at Texas. I've got a lot of experience at Texas. I grew up going to Texas games, sitting in what used to be called the knothole. So it's not a whole lot of fun to watch the team suck. That said, there was some comedic aspects to Saturday night. First of all, that's a pelican on Kansas's helmet. Or it's that, what was that, that toucan? Is that a toucan? I love the uniforms of Kansas. I like the pelican or toucan on their helmet. I just don't know what it is. It's a toucan. So here we go. Some of the highlights. I just laughed out loud because it's a foreign game to me. This is not football that I know. It's not played the way I know. It's not executed the way I know. So I almost feel like it's a surreal experience to watch Texas and Kansas play because it's so goofy and messed up and lame. So I just kind of look for funny parts. And what made me laugh out loud is a fat guy won the game. A fat guy who had not played at all won the game. Okay, let's do some audio of Saturday night. Then I will pull the curtain back and explain to you the complicated fix.
And they didn't need 6 turnovers tonight, but they did need 4.
And KU has had multiple answers to adversity that came in.
Yes, they're chanting SEC. Yeah, it hurts. Yeah, it's funny. Well deserved. The 11 people that came to the game to cheer on Kansas were chanting SEC, and it was funny.
Daniels, flushed. Daniels, end zone, caught! Kansas wins it! Jared Casey, the hero, and the Jayhawks find a way.
Fat guy. He's just a fat guy. I love him.
Well, Philly, remember why Jared Casey is even in the game. Your best receiving tight end, Mason Fairchild, got chopped to the ground and hasn't been in the game since. Jared Casey is a fullback. Don't you love this game?
57-56, the final score in Austin. The losing streak in Big 12 play is over. Jared Casey, a big reason why, and Jalen Daniels getting the start. What a performance.
Okay, there's just so much that's funny about that. One, the fat guy who caught the 2-point play, which is beyond math logic to me, but whatever, that catches the 2-point play. From what I understand, it was his first play of the night. So we'll really put that in perspective, okay? He didn't enter the game until the 68th minute. That guy, he's got a corn dog. He's been playing on his phone. He's been texting friends. And he enters the game, one play, and it's over. And he's fat. It's funny. Now, caught in that as well, the Kansas coach, again, I'm just laughing out loud because there's so much chaos. The Kansas coach, just to show you how this is foreign territory for him and his team, they convert the 2-point play to win. Going for 2 points in that situation, I'm lost on watching these games because it's some kind of silly game. It's not even the real thing that I know. But he's waving guys off the field. He doesn't realize they've won. He's yelling at them, "Get off the field! Get off the field!" Buddy, you just won. It's over. I know it's a weird feeling, but he's waving guys off the field as if there's another round to play in overtime. And he just, because I know why he's doing it, he's freaking out going, "Oh my gosh, we scored, we're going to get a penalty." Like stupid Texas. And we're going to, we can't do that. He doesn't realize they've won. No, coach, you won for once. It's over. You really won. There's that. a guy, I really like his work. I respect his opinions. Look, it's not hard to have an opinion on Texas at this point, but it just, this rant right after the game by Pat Forty of SportsIllustrated.com made me laugh as well.
Right below. You can spin it however you want. They just lost 5 in a row. They lost to Kansas. They suck. And you're going to bring them into the SEC now and say, yeah, they're Texas. They'll be fine. They'll be fine. Come on. I mean, that's how bad this is at this moment. Now, can it be fixed? Yes, it can be fixed. Is Sarkisian the guy to fix it? He looks more like Willie Taggart right now than a savior. You know, that Willie Taggart, who didn't even get 2 full years at Florida State before he was run out. If next year's going like this, Sark's gone. Because Texas has to not just hitting the panic button, but pound the panic button if they are still in this position as they get closer to getting into the Southeastern Conference, because this is embarrassing enough. You want to go in and just absolutely get your helmet handed to you week in and week out by the Mississippi schools and Kentucky and South Carolina and Missouri? That's the way you're headed right now.
Steve Sarkisian is aging in Biden years. He looks like he's 70 already. For good reason. They suck. They suck, and he knows it. Don't act as if a coach who's been around doesn't know, okay? Now that's where you're wrong. They may be terrible themselves. He may suck himself. I may be advocating, I'm 1 year ahead of Pat Forty here. I'm saying that for management reasons, you have to whack him because management is really the one on the clock right now. But it's not going to solve anything. But he knows they suck. And I can tell you why he can't fix it. Management and everything else that goes along with it has to fix it. So, okay, there's the comedic part, the Pelicans, the chanting of the SEC, all the memes, all the jokes. You know, UTSA is going to take their spot in the SEC. All that kind of stuff is fair game. They deserve every bit of it. It needs to come hard. All that is fine. So I will tell you that this is what I typically do, 6 minutes of football that's not really 6 minutes, and in this case, it's not 6 minutes for sure. Let's skip the historic numbers with this Texas home loss to Kansas. You know, numbers like, what is it, Kansas's first road win in 13 years. That's why the coach doesn't know the game is over. They never win. He doesn't even know. We scored 2. I don't know. What happens now? It's the biggest point total allowed, I think, by a Texas team in a loss in 65 years. It's the longest losing streak since the mid-50s. Texas was something like 97-0 and favored by more than 24 points. They were favored by 30 at home. So by now you can go, and everyone's looked them up. You can find all these incredible stats. You don't need me for that. So let's pull the curtain back and talk about why the Texas program is here. Now, this is a result, I'm going to argue, is a result of systemic issues. Texas is here because of an unrelenting level of arrogance and entitlement. And I'm not sure which one more than the other, but they're both there. And so that unrelenting level of arrogance and entitlement seeps from the boardroom. Okay, follow this. It seeps from the boardroom, the Board of Regents, to the president's office, to the athletic director's office, to the coach's office, to the weight room, and to the field. So this arrogance, the slime of arrogance and entitlement has seeped its way all the way onto the field. And there are examples of that. John McClellan is the co-founder and creator of Atx Hot Sauce, now in all 50 states and several retail outlets as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to let this social media rock star chef walk us through 4 different sauces, and then I'll taste, and we'll tell everyone why they should buy. You can give the science behind these, and then I'll make the simple recommendation. Go to atxhotsauce.com. All right,
I don't think
let's
anybody's
go.
heard the website.
Yeah, I know.
By you, Jeff,
I've
but
never
it is atxhotsauce.com.
I'll say
I got that one right.
345 times, atxhotsauce.com. So let's do it.
I brought 4 flavors here, and we're going to test your palate today.
Okay.
And I only brought 4 because I didn't think you could handle 5 or 6.
Yes,
probably a
enough.
smart move. Yeah. And so the first one we're going to try here, it's called Beet Heat. And just like the name implies, it has beets in it. It's made with red Fresno peppers. Red Fresnos are red peppers that are they're hotter than a jalapeno and a little bit less than a serrano. So not super hot here, just a lot of really good flavor. So we're going to start with this one, and then we're going to move up the chain.
Okay. I've had the beet heat, but okay.
Yeah, we're going to try it though.
It goes well with a cab. All right, Jeff's savoring beet.
I'll
heat.
even do it with you, so that should be all right. Now remember, it is hot sauce.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's hot sauce. Trust me, man.
Wait,
It's hot sauce.
is that one hot to you?
No. A little.
Yeah. The great thing with the fermentation process is you get a bunch of the flavor right up front.
Yeah.
And then the heat comes, but then it dissipates pretty quickly, especially with the red Fresnos. This is not a very spicy one, but it is a very tasty one. Goes on great on sandwiches.
Beet heat.
Beet heat. B-E-E-T. Heat.
All right. Go to atxhotsauce.com.
That's right.
But how, as a management perspective, this level of arrogance, it's something I've tried to mention several times. I even mentioned it a little less than a year ago. So let's talk about the management, entitlement, and arrogance before it's even seeping its way all the way to the field, because it does. It did on Saturday. What you saw on Saturday night is what happens in the boardroom seeping to the field itself. You see it play out in real time. The arrogance and entitlement plays itself out in real time. And I'll give you very specific examples. So it's a program filled with stupid decisions because it's unaccountable to anybody. It's the most spoiled brat you can think of. Whatever comparisons to spoiled kids you want to come up with, that's Texas Football Inc. That's management of Texas Football Inc. No, understand this, no is never an option. A hard line is it's never an option. It's one of the most spoiled programs, arguably, in all of sports. And I'm not making an exaggeration here. This is not that new. It really is. I mean, maybe the New York Yankees would be the most spoiled of all franchises, but the Texas football program isn't far behind. So I'll give you examples of what I'm talking about. 2 perfect examples. First up, the management perspective, the management by deep pockets, the management of arrogance and the management of entitlement is precisely what is created that debacle. Okay. Tom Herman, the last coach, was no Bill Belichick. Okay. But you know what he didn't do? He didn't lose 5 straight. He didn't lose to the worst program in the Big 12 at home. In fact, he went, 7-3 in his last year. He won 4 straight, including a bowl game. And guess what? He got fired and paid more than $20 million to go away. And that's not all. And I think this is the significance of the last year. Not only was this another in a long line of failed coaching payoffs, it happened during a pandemic when the university, like all of society, was shut down. It happened when people were getting furloughed. It happened during cutbacks. It happened because the entitled attitude of the Texas football shareholders and management is so arrogant, it's blind to common sense. They didn't care what it looked like. Nothing matters to them because they're not accountable to anybody. No one once walked down the hall and said, look, I don't know, you may not like the guy. They're 7-3, and take a look around. The entire campus is shut down by a pandemic. I'm furloughing people right and left. We can't just go and pay him to go away just because we feel like it. We can't do that. No one ever says stuff like that because they don't have any accountability. It's just management by deep pockets. What's the problem today? Really? The coach is mediocre? Here, give him some money. They're blind to any accountability because it's so entitled and arrogant. Nobody Nobody should have done that. It is a bad look, even if you have the money at that time to do it that way. It was a terrible look. I'm not saying they'd be playing for the national championship now. I'm using the firing of a 7-3 coach during a pandemic to point out to you they have no idea how things look. Okay? If he were the coach right now, would they be mediocre? Yeah. Well, they're less than mediocre now. They suck. But yeah, they'd probably be mediocre, sure. And would you end up firing him pretty soon? Maybe. But if you weren't entitled, there's no way you would have thrown a bunch of money at that guy at that time. No way. So what do they turn around and do? My point continues. They fired the guy during the pandemic who's 7-3. Then Texas Football Inc. and its shareholders, they go and hire an assistant coach and give him, you want to see unchecked arrogance? You want to see it play out? You want to see entitlement play out? They give him a guaranteed $34 million contract. That's the height of arrogance. The guy who's aging in dog years, who knows his team sucks, who really wants his team to get better, and might just be a pretty decent football coach wrapped up in that guy who's aging in dog years. He doesn't deserve a $36 million guaranteed contract. He was an assistant football coach. But they don't care. It doesn't matter to them. It's just money. It's just another person to pay off. And then whine about why you suck all the time. Not only that, in case you didn't know this or haven't noticed this, their defense is horrible. Absolutely pathetic. The defensive coach makes $1 million. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? He makes $1 million. And all this money is guaranteed. So I don't know what reason any of these people deserved that kind of payout. Okay, but at Texas Football Inc., they do it anyway because they can. It's just the solution. It's just, surely our deep pockets will fix it this time. So there's my boardroom example. And it matters. And I think it matters a lot. And I'm going to argue that kind of arrogant entitlement, lack of accountability attitude seeps its way onto the field. Okay? Jeff, come on, man. Just scream fire the coach. Hang on. How does this entitlement and arrogance seep onto the field? I've got a perfect example. I saw it play out real life, real time, all in one moment. And I think this brings it home. Marcus Washington was on the receiving end of a touchdown in the first overtime. Okay? It was not the game winner. Because obviously, man, I hate college football overtimes. I hate the concept. I think it's so stupid. But Texas scores first. He scores the touchdown. It's not the game winner because the other team gets the ball. But they were the first to score. You're in overtime. Let me set this up for you. You're in overtime. You're in overtime at home. You have to come back, scramble from dead to tie the worst program in college football of the last 20 years. At home. Okay? You've scored to only take the lead in overtime against Kansas. And you act like you just beat Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win a Super Bowl. He spins the ball in the end zone. He taunts Kansas. Okay? You want to see entitlement play itself out? This is it. He taunts Kansas. He gets flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct. Okay? By the way, now again, do I think spinning the ball in the end zone is that big of a deal? Typically, no. But when you are so arrogant and entitled to act like that, when you've just taken the lead against Kansas, what you should do when you play Kansas and you get away with it, you shut your face, you toss the ball to the referee, and you get your ass off the field because you just beat Kansas. You shut your face. But when you don't care and have any accountability and you have no notice of how it looks and you're so entitled you think you're a big deal when you're not a big deal. They were warned, programs have been warned not to do that thing in the end zone, not to act like you've just won the Super Bowl, not to act like you're in the NFL because you just lost to Kansas. You fool. You look like a fool and don't even know it. So they get an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. Guess what? Kansas starts at the 10. They don't start at the 25. They start at the 10. And that's how blind. That player is, just like the management is blind to any sort of accountability. It just played itself out. So he thinks it's cool to celebrate. He doesn't know any better. He just thinks that's the way you live. It's cool to celebrate against Kansas in overtime at home. He's proud of himself. He has no concept of how ridiculous it looks, obviously. Just like the entire program has no concept of where it is. So Kansas scores. They go for 2. They win. Okay. Now, okay, Jeff. Yeah. So how do you fix that? Well, management by deep pockets. I've already said somebody has to walk down a hallway somewhere and say, yeah, look, I know we can pay him. I know we throw money around. I got to draw a line today. I got to draw a hard line because I need to send a message throughout the department that we kind of hold you accountable, that this stuff's not going to be tolerated. So somebody's got to go, or maybe a lot of you got to go. So get your box. Don't worry, we pay you, but I need to send a message. So management, if somebody's got to get a hold of the place. They won't, but somebody should get a hold of the place and say, you've got to have a hard line somewhere. The other part is far more complicated. So coaches can't fix the entitlement necessarily. I know a lot of you want to believe if you just yell at them and you go 1950 on them, then that fixes itself. That's not true at all. It doesn't work that way. Here's the way it works in football, big time football. Players are recruited because they think they're going to get to the NFL. The thing that you live and die on in the NFL is next man up, because you're playing for your life. You're playing for paychecks. I know everybody thinks that, the players that that are ultra rich are a small percentage. So the rule for players 15 through 55 is this: you live and you work to get a second contract. Okay? And you're going to say, well, Jeff, what does this have to do with college football? Next man up fixes everything. Next man up fixes everything. Steve Sarkisian knows this. He coached at Alabama. Don't tell me that Nick Saban has some sort of, yes, he's the best at what he does, but it takes care of itself, because you know what he does? He has players every day in practice that are working to keep their job. Because if they lose that job, they lose the hope of getting in the NFL. Talent fixes everything, not for obvious reasons, because, well, you just get better on the field. Talent fixes all of this stuff because it's next man up. I don't want to lose my spot by some jackass move against Kansas, because that spot's going to get me to the NFL. I'll lose that spot because we got another guy right behind me who'll take my job. That fixes everything. That's not the current coach's problem. He knows it. He looks around and says, well, no wonder they don't care, because no one's there to take next man up. Talent fixes everything. Because when you're talented, you're playing to get to the show. You're playing to get paydays. You're playing for real. You're playing for your life. It's what all these guys want to do. They want to get to that next place. Well, going to work every day in the NFL teaches you next man up will take your livelihood away from you in a heartbeat. Okay? You go to Alabama, he doesn't have to yell at somebody. He doesn't have to say, please don't spike the ball in the end zone. He just says, Bob, take his spot. Bob's pissed. Bob just lost his livelihood. That fixes everything. Talent will take care of it all. They don't have pro players. Okay, when you have pro players, I mean, I say by pro players, I mean guys that are going to get to the next level and get paid to do it and fight until their last breath for the next paycheck. You play for that paycheck on Tuesdays, and you play for the second contract. So the greatest internship, these players are recruited. It's sad, it's sick, it's twisted because most will never make it, but they are recruited on the idea that one day you're going to be a pro. They're not. But if you're in an environment where there are pro caliber players, every day is hard work because someone will take your spot. They don't have enough pro players. Obviously, the fat guy scored, but they're not even close to having enough pro players. And pro players fixes entitlement because the next man up. It'll fix it all. You don't have to give any pep talks when the guy says, I'm going to play like crazy today because that guy's taking my job. I lose this spot, I don't get there. Good luck fixing the management. And you're a long, long, long way away from next man up.
From the Hot Pie Media Studios in Austin, Texas, it's the Jeff Ward Show. Listen at jeffwardshow.com.